Giving it a look, finds the railing and he tumbles over, but he made the catch. Unbelievable, Evan Mendoza.
Gran jugada en Evan Mendoza, dos joyas defensivas.
Evan Mendoza makes a great
rounded up the middle. Mendoza throws off the shortstop. Mendoza field spins.
Mendoza throw to first in time. Wow, what a play by Evan Mendoza.
Short. Mendoza to second for one. Oh my word, you've got to be kidding.
Evan Mendoza.
For Mendoza lifts one to left. An inning.
Mendoza, that one's sailing back there, and it's gone.
Now, those are some of the plays and the insights of playing baseball at the highest level, not just posting about it. Now, let's flip the script. Here's what my students and families have to say about working with me.
Just share his stories of the kids asking him, what did you do? And his one answer was one word. Evan.
It's an overall great program to improve your metrics, mental approach, your velocity, and your outreaching strategies. Because there's a ton of players I know that are way better than me that had zero offers because they don't know how to reach out to coaches.
Pretty much every possible number would have gone up. I was high 70s and now I'm aiming for mid to high 80s and hitting the same thing. I was high 80s off machine and now I'm able to put some balls out in the mid 90s.
JT's motivation to want to do it at home, be proactive in his baseball career, and we are able to do these things for him, and it's self-motivated and he's taken that action. As a parent, you want to be able to say yes to something like that.
It's been making me feel much more confident. Like now going into the season, I feel I have all the ability I need and I can just play and trust that all the work I did will pay off.
Started working out, I was about 120, 115, about 160 now. I trusted it and it worked. If you want to go get it, it's not going to come to you.
My EV was about 75 and my body weight was around 155, around that. Since I joined that, I'm up to almost 180 now and I'm hitting 80s, around mid 80s.
How much more kind of committed he was and how much more confident he became in his own progress, instead of questioning himself about, am I doing the right thing or is this the right thing? So you could kind of see the stress level decrease a little bit, and then that energy could be focused on really all of the program aspects, right? Or his workouts.
Do that. If you could get on and do what you said day in, day out, it's amazing. Like a game changer.
Through your program, I just realized how much more I could learn. I could just feel the improvement over the course of 4 or 5 months, like you said. I could feel the improvement myself. With you being able to supply me with this type of structure, I'm able to just learn for myself and learn how to improve by myself, which makes me feel a lot better as well as a lot more accomplished in the end.
You can give him the guidance and he can always ask questions to you. I could see how he became more confident after talking to you every time. You are always there when he needs. I think it's really important to know or be told from someone professional like you.
It was a completely new experience for us. I think we were skeptical. We dove into some of the content. We realized how good it was and the quality of it. The way that you kind of worked with him and you set expectations for him, and like, hey, these are the things I'm expecting from you, and that was a big part of why we enjoyed the program as well.
The program has made me a little eagerness to go out and do something and not just wait for the team practice and do things on my own.
As his dad, I can tell him till I'm blue in the face that this needs to be done. And sometimes it doesn't resonate coming from the dad. Sometimes it needs to come from a pro ball player.
Through your program, I just realized how much more I could learn. I could just feel the improvement over the course of 4 or 5 months, like you said. With you being able to supply me with this type of structure, I'm able to just learn for myself and learn how to improve by myself, which makes me feel a lot better as well as a lot more accomplished in the end.
I definitely recommend joining it. It's awesome. The community's great. Having you there to support you is incredible, and overall love the program.
You get the full structure. You get your lifting, you get your arm velocity, you get your mechanics, you get your hitting, and the hands-on approach from you.
Infield velo was 68 or something like that. It was not good. My 60-yard dash was 7.7, which is not good. And I was not very mobile. I wasn't very strong. I mean, I'm a big kid, but a lot of it was just from my size. My infield velo now is 80, and my 6-yard dash is 7.0.
It's insane. What was the root cause for all that?
I mean, it was just staying consistent with the program. I think just I had to really stay on, focus on the path that I was trying to get. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to become elite. I was trying to get better. I know the stats at the time. I was like, oh yeah, that's not that bad. But going back and looking, that's not where I should be playing.
All right. Welcome into another episode of Coffee and Baseball, guys. I'm your host, Evan Mendoza. Played 7 years of professional baseball between the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Diego Padres. And as you guys know, one of my very first things that I love to do is knock that guy over to the next day. Beckett, welcome in. Guys, this is a Coffee and Baseball. So this is, if you are a coffee drinker like myself, bring your coffee, ask your questions about baseball, development, mindset, recruiting, whatever you may have, whatever your specific situation may be. I would love to learn a little bit more about who you are, where you are at, and how I could possibly even help you guys out. So if you have, or if this is your first ever time on a Coffee and Baseball, guys, go ahead and put the baseball emoji down below in the chat, just so that way I know that you're a first time listener to Coffee and Baseball. I've been doing this for 28 days, guys, and I definitely have been loving it. That's why I've been hanging out with you guys. And yeah, if you have any baseball related questions, feel free to ask. Hello, I'm in Senegal. Let's go. Yeah, if you guys want to, feel free to drop what state you guys are living in or what country you're living in. That is really, really cool. But to get things off on the road, my son is a 2026 right-handed pitcher, 84-86, not bad, but inconsistent with command. So like at this range as a senior, this is where we want to have that command on lockdown. Now, if he was throwing 91, 93 with bad command, that's going to be able to, get passed on to a college pitching coach, and that pitching coach hopefully can develop your son's skills to build that consistency. But if he's at that 84, 86 range, that's where we need to be a little bit more dialed in, basically, as far as what we've got going on. What's the best way to prepare before a game? Everyone's going to have their own routine, and that's where it's really important. Alex, thanks for joining in this morning, to have your own routine. Don't try to force yourself into someone else's routine. Throughout my professional career, like obviously I would have many different routines, whether it was my workout routine, my routine out there on the field as far as right before the game, out in the outfield, basically making sure I'm stretching, making sure I'm doing my sprints, making sure I'm feeling good about myself going into the game. Those are all routines that are really important to have throughout your games, right? Especially when you're playing every single day. It's a lot easier to get into those routines than if you're playing just every weekend, right? You kind of forget about certain routines and whatever the case may be. But these are things that, like, obviously you'll find out throughout your high school career, your college career, your professional career, hopefully one day, right? So these are things that I definitely want to make sure that I'm sharing with you, as far as like, don't follow the crowd with everything that you've got going on, because if you do, you might find yourself in like trying to be someone that you're not, right? Especially when it comes to your overall routine. No, I can't say your name. I don't know how to say your name, but welcome in. Hello. How we doing? Hope everyone's having a great day, guys. If you are a first-time viewer of Coffee and Baseball, guys, go ahead and put the baseball emoji down below in the chat so I know that you're a first-time viewer of Coffee and Baseball. I've been doing this every single day for 28 days. We're shooting for 50, and honestly, I've been loving it so much that I'm going to probably keep it going. I'm just giving you guys a heads up. But I have a tournament this weekend. My first 2 games are today for the spring season. Let's go, Alex. Congratulations, and I wish you the best of luck. And I think you told me, maybe it was someone else, a pretty consistent watcher, though, of the live, that you just feel a lot more mentally ready for games. You feel like you're in a better position. You were hitting better batting practice. So if that's the case, that is awesome. Obviously, I love hearing that. I love hearing that, even though you're not in the academy, but you're still getting the feels out there on the field. So that's always a good thing to hear. Guys, again, if you have any baseball related questions, feel free to ask. And since we are live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, I'm going to answer some questions that I get on other accounts as well. So a coach followed him on social media, probably Twitter, but hasn't reached out. What does that mean? He followed you. He wants to see ultimately the progression of your son, right? Or the regression, or the plateau, right? So basically, in my mind, and this is really important, I think, so I'm going to go ahead and actually record this. So a coach followed him on social media, probably on Twitter, but hasn't reached out. What does that mean? So in my opinion, what he's really looking for is hopefully to see that progression of your son. He could also see some level of a regression, or the worst is the plateau, right? He hasn't made any improvements. He hasn't really figured it out as far as what he needs to be specifically working on and how to improve it. I think it's really important, kind of like what we're looking at right now. We are a blank canvas as far as these college coaches' perspective on who we are, right? And if this is the first video you've ever seen of mine, like, you might think I'm that blank canvas. You don't know anything about my playing career. You don't know anything about my college career. You don't know anything about my dogs or where I live or anything like that. And that's totally fair. But over time, you know, a college coach will follow your son. He gets to see this, right? Okay, this is what his face looks like, right? Very, very simple process, right? Okay, this is kind of his build, right? This is who he is. And what we're doing in the whole college recruiting process, really, really big, basically strategy, right? 30,000 foot strategy, is we're trying to paint the picture of who we are. We're trying to tell them exactly who we are, you know, the jersey that we wear, the arms that I forgot to draw in, right? So we want to keep doing this consistently. We also want to add colors in the background, right? Basically, this is me showing to you guys I'm a terrible drawer, but also at the same time, in the whole college recruiting process, if you think you're going to get a recruitment or a scholarship, I should say, by showing these college coaches this, compared to even this is ugly, college coaches will know who you are by them painting a picture, whether it's on social media, how your son's going about posting consistently, because if he's posting consistently, he's probably consistent with baseball. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense, guys? Does that make sense? Because again, if we're thinking that we're just gonna like go on social media and just like that's that, a college coach followed me, but then we're not gonna actually give like the attention to him that he deserves, as far as like, hey, we're gonna make sure that we're posting stuff for that coach. We're not posting stuff to be, you know, the next Jake Paul. Absolutely not. Yeah, Alex, he's been hitting better. These lives have taught me more about consistency with training and working out, even if it's 2 days. It's been 2 weeks. I've seen a lot of improvements in strength. Yeah, no, absolutely. So like, one thing that I think it's really interesting, and even on the concept of social media, we know that one Francis guy out of New Jersey. Like, I've seen his content before, and it's like really cool because he's a high schooler and he's on like day 540 of playing in the big leagues, right? And he's in high school. He's perfect. He's ranked in perfect game, probably like a 9 or a 9.5. I don't remember, but he's a pretty solid player, right? And he's doing it consistently. Hopefully, you guys see the consistency, right? It's pretty obvious, hopefully, for everyone, but not everyone's going to see it that way. So yeah, Alex, hopefully you're seeing that consistency and the importance of that consistency. All right. If you guys have any baseball related questions, though, feel free to ask. That's why I'm here. That's what I do. So yeah, let's get into another question. All right. Ooh, good question. So he performs well in practice, but he's not able to turn that into the game. How many of the listeners right now, if you're in the chat right now, how many of you guys have ever struggled with this, as far as not being able to translate? Ultimately what this is you're having a hard time translating it to the game. Who has ever had that problem before in the past? Because if you had that problem in the past, it is frustrating, to say the very least. But yeah, this process of like translating anything into the game, guys, it can be struggles of really not your physical ability, right? Because if we really think about it, it's not a lack of physicality, right? Because we're able to do it in practice, right? It's really what it comes down to. And what I want to go ahead and do is actually record this, because this is a pretty common question that I actually get quite often. So if you're a high school baseball player and you're having a trouble with translating practice into the game, this is for you. So really what it comes down to is that translation of what we're doing, again, in the practice, and how are we not able to do that in the game? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not your physicality. And that's what most people think. It's like, well, there's some type of physical reason that we're not able to do this. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is completely false. What it really comes down to is your mindset, and making sure that when we're practicing with intent. We're practicing with this competitive mindset, so that way when the game happens, the game is a cakewalk, because ideally we know what we're doing. We've done it so many times in practice that the nerves don't come up, right? The confidence is there in the game, and then that way we let our athletic abilities, our physical abilities, just play out. All right, how do I decide where to play high school as an athletic lefty? I don't know what that means. As like, are you talking about you throw with your left, or what is it exactly does that mean? What is the best mindset to have before a game and during a game? So always it's like the best is to come, right? Like we have to always think about like there's a mindset because I'm getting into like the business stuff, like your next best hire or your next best hire will be your next hire. No. Your best hire is your next hire, basically. So basically the same mindset in baseball. Your best at bat is going to be your next at bat, right? That's actually, I like that. Best at bat is your next at bat, right? If we ever catch ourselves, Alex, yourself included as well, if we ever catch ourselves looking into the past, right? This is in the past. This is the last at bat that we had. Maybe we're on our third at bat of the game, right? This is all in the past, right? We are here. This is the vehicle that we're going in. And ideally, I don't know what that was. This is the vehicle that we're going in. And we're going in that direction. What makes you ever think that focusing on this is going to help you get over here to point A? It's not ever going to help you, right? And this is something that I think is just really important for really all high school baseball players to understand is when we're thinking about like our best at bat is your next at bat, right? Because a lot of high school baseball players will have troubles with the mindset and making sure that we have the correct mindset not only before a game, but really during the game as well. So think about like this. If you're 0 for 2, this is the past at bats that we've had, right? And we are in this car right now. We're trying to get over to point A, but if we're focusing on what's in the rearview mirror, we're never going to really, that's never going to serve us. That's never going to help us out to get over here. We need to always be thinking about that next at bat. If you're a pitcher, the next pitch. Think about it. Like if you're a pitcher, you command your pitch, you spot up the hitter, soft ground ball to the shortstop, and the shortstop boots it. It's happened to me in high school. I used to usually get really frustrated, but I usually try to calm myself down, realizing that is all in the past. That is all over here. You can't do anything, Evan, about what's happened in the past. And when I'm on the mound for that next pitch, I really have that next pitch mentality, which is basically all the things that happened in the past, can't change it. Even if you try, like it's in the past, it's already happened. So what we really need to be thinking about is that next pitch to help us get to that result. Maybe, get that double play if you're a pitcher. Maybe just, get deeper in the count the next at bat so that way we're not rolling over on the first pitch. And then maybe we feel a little bit more comfortable with timing, with, barreling up the ball, whatever the case may be. But ultimately this mindset throughout the game and before your game, that's going to definitely help you out. Yo, what up? I had talked to my dad. Let's go, Gavin. That's awesome. What took you so long? I reach out to coaches like I email. Is that a good thing to do? Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to do. Yo, bro, what's up? What's up, Ben? How you doing? Jack, I still don't really understand your question. How do I decide where to play in high school as an athletic lefty? If you're talking about lefty thrower, you're really limited to first base and then any outfield position, right? So because of lefties, it's just you can't play third, you can't play short, you can't play second, you can play first, you can play outfield, any position, you can pitch, but you can't catch, right? So if I was an athletic lefty, this is where I'd be focusing on. Yes, it limits your ability to be really good at those positions, but if you're talking about just like a lefty hitter, dude, you can play wherever you want. If you're a lefty thrower, you're really just limited to being an outfielder, a pitcher, or a first baseman. So that's making sure, he left. Unfortunate. All right, guys, but if you have any baseball-related questions, feel free to ask. Also, if this is the first ever Coffee and Baseball you've ever joined into, put the baseball emoji. Don't be scared to comment, guys. This is part of what I do. I want to make sure that what information I give you is not vanilla. Like, vanilla information are those 2-second reels that you see on Instagram. Do this and you're gonna land a college commitment. Guys, it's not that simple. And what I hate to do is try to condense my 7-year pro career into a quick 3-second video telling you it's this easy. Guys, it's not. It's not that easy to play at the next level. It's not easy to play D1 baseball. It's not easy to play professional baseball like I did for 7 years. I'm not going to give you the false hope that in 3 seconds you're going to be able to change your entire trajectory as a high school baseball player. Guys, that's where, in my opinion, all of this brain-rotted content that's out there, it makes you think that these things are easy. It makes it feel like it's overnight success. Guys, we've all seen the graphs before. The graph of overnight success is this for like 10 years, and then all of a sudden it goes, right? A lot of people think overnight success is like, ooh, and then your overnight success right there. Guys, it doesn't happen that way. You have to grind it out for like 10 years to be able to actually see that success, right? So hopefully that answers your question. I'm 5'4". Ooh, what is that? By the way, anybody else that wants to do like a profile like this, just like Alex, let me know your information. 120 pounds. What size length should I use and what drop? Sorry if that's a random question. I'm also curious on what's going up on with what grade you're at and then also what level you're at. So I think I remember, Alex, you might be in 8th grade. So in 8th grade, I do remember my mind was set on basically, hey, in freshman year, I'm going to have to swing a drop 3. I think that's how it works, right? I believe drop 3, right? I'm not entirely sure if in high school it's a rule that you have to do drop 3 or if you can do a drop 5 like in JV. I'm not entirely sure. But what I would say is like you want to get familiar with that drop 3 as soon as possible. Now, if you're 5'4", like I would probably be at that 31 to 32. To be completely fair, I was 6 foot swinging a 32, and that was the biggest mistake that I have made in high school. So once I moved to a 33, within like a couple of months, I realized, hey, the bat is actually going to help me out more if I, of course, know how to barrel it up. And that's where in college, I went from a 33 to a 33 and a half to a 34 within like a month. And the reason for that is like I was big, strong enough to swing a 34 without a doubt. Like that's not the thing that really was of issue. It was more or less I realized that the bat was going to give me so much more power. And I think a lot of people want that power, but they don't realize how to utilize that bat and making sure that you're hitting the ball on the right part of the barrel. That's something that's it's never really talked about. So I actually want to draw an example of this. All right, nobody really talks about where you need to hit the ball on the barrel, right? So ideally that is the barrel. This is the area that we can hit the ball and it's typically gonna fly pretty well, right? But the thing is that we really wanna think about a baseball this is not relative to size, by the way. A baseball, let's just say, is that big. So in professional baseball, when we're using a wood bat, it'd be very common that we would say like, yeah, I got jammed a little bit, but I got it on the barrel. That's basically saying, hey, I hit it in this area and it didn't go as far as I'd like it to because I got jammed just a little bit. Now, a lot of high school baseball players, parents, and coaches think that hitting the ball on the barrel is perfectly in the middle. And that's where you are mistaken because yes, you can absolutely do that. And absolutely, the ball is gonna fly very, very far. But the thing that I would prefer that you do is understand leverage, right? And ultimately, this is coming from my engineering background, right? But if we have a fulcrum right here, which is basically a lever, right? It would be ideal to hit that ball towards the cap, but you're still on the barrel. So this was a big aha moment for me when I was at the D1 level at NC State. And this is where I started hitting batting practice and I was like, doing home run derby because I realized if I'm hitting the ball right here, it's not going to be as good as if I hit the ball there. I'm going to be able to backspin the ball that much further. I'm basically using an extra inch right here of leverage, and ultimately that leverage is going to lead to bat speed, it's going to lead to increased exit velocity, and then once you really square it up and understand how to backspin balls, stay inside the ball, that's where you're able to hit some absolute nukes, hopefully in batting practice, and that's a way to, of course, improve your metrics. Make sure that these college coaches are in attendance, impressed with your batting practice. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Yo, Easton, hope all is well. Welcome in. Guys, if this is your first Coffee and Baseball, like I've said so many times, guys, put a baseball emoji in the chat just so that I know who I'm talking to. But yeah, this is something that I think is really important. It's not really talked about too much. So hopefully that gives you some understanding on like what you should be doing. Also, I got some breakfast over here, so I'm gonna munch a little bit. All right, just got a pretty cool question, so I'm gonna record this. All right, what supplements did I take as a professional baseball player? So let's talk about it. So protein powder, honestly, I'm recording this, by the way, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and redo that. All right, what supplements did I take as a professional baseball player? So let's talk about it, because there's obviously like protein, and protein is probably the most common, especially for high school baseball players, to build a little bit more muscle mass. There's also like creatine, which I did not actually take. So creatine, for those that don't know, it basically helps with water weight in your muscles. You have to drink a lot of water to stay hydrated when you're taking creatine. By all means, like yes, creatine works for some people. I didn't personally like it because typically throughout the long professional season, creatine would dehydrate me. Playing baseball in the heat in the summertime would dehydrate me. So I would never want to basically expedite that process of being dehydrated. So typically I would take protein powder. There'd be times also like for if my energy was weak, we would have this basically carb powder. It was very, very simple. It was basically like 35 grams of carb, and I would do like 2 scoops. So if I was feeling a little bit drained after a game, I would basically carbo load that night after the game, so that way the next day I was able to recover. Now, as far as like pills and basically other supplements, so I would take like a multivitamin, I would take a vitamin D3, I would take a fish oil, I would also take multivitamin, D3, fish oil, I believe that was that, protein, carb. So another thing, like we had access to pre-workout. I never liked to take it. I didn't like that feeling of like being too jittery. I'm more of a coffee guy in the morning, so that's basically all I would usually do for pre-workout. We would also have like BCAAs. And to be honest with you, again, I didn't really enjoy the taste of BCAAs. I didn't really feel a difference. Everyone's going to be different with different supplements. That's something that's really important. But an area that I actually did love to buy into is we would have these like hydration packs. Basically, I forgot the names of them, but basically Drip Drop was actually one of them. There are other companies that are out there, but basically these hydration things, again, what I talked about with creatine, this is kind of the opposite. So hydration things, they're basically packets of salt and electrolytes. It basically replenishes that hydration, again, in the hot summer. So this is an area that I bought into very heavily. This area was more of like the pills, basically the digestibles. On occasion, I would do the carb, and then almost, probably 2 or 3 times out of the week, I would also do a protein shake after the game, mostly because the spread sometimes was light, and I was like, okay, this is something that helps me replenish my muscles, give me that fuel for the next day. All right, what age or grade should I start taking supplements? So a little bit of a hack. I started taking fish oils and multivitamin when I was around 8th grade. And I do remember, not everyone's going to react to it differently, right? But I do remember I had a growth spurt of like 5 inches when I started taking multivitamin and fish oil in 8th grade. And I think, I like to tell myself it's because of putting the right stuff into my body. But in my opinion, like, that didn't really have a huge impact. I think it was just I was going through puberty. I gave my body what I needed to be able to grow into basically the athlete I wanted to become into. Is it okay if you are 14 and you weigh 240? Great question, Gavin. All right, guys, if you have any baseball-related questions, feel free to ask. That's what I'm here for. I want to make sure that you guys are giving the best baseball education as humanly possible. All right, my son's not a vocal leader. Do coaches care about personality? Yes, without a doubt, guys. You do have to have that personality. You don't necessarily have to be the most vocal leader, but when it counts, think about a pop fly, right? A pop fly, and you're the shortstop, and there's a pop fly right here. And the third baseman is like, no, I want to go get it. Let's be honest, this is the shortstop's ball, right? If your son's the shortstop, we need him to hover over here and absolutely yell on the top of his lungs, I got it, I got it, I got it, even though he's not the most vocal guy. Because this is part of the game. You have to be able to understand, like, no, I'm going to call you off with authority. And that shows the scouts, like, hey, I understand he's a quiet guy, but he just screamed, like, I got it. And it's just very, very obvious that, like, when it matters, like right here, he's going to be vocal. He's going to speak up. He's going to make sure that, like, he's communicating with his teammates because that is part of the game. What about protein and stuff? So, like, protein, in my opinion, like, you can take those things. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, I've seen some videos where everything is proteinified. I don't know if I spelled protein right. I think I did. Everything is proteinified. Basically, Starbucks has a protein latte, and it's like, what it really is, it basically has like 4 grams of protein, right? Which is nothing. Granola bars, protein on big, bold letters. Everything has protein. Everything protein. Some things that label as protein, if you looked back 10 years ago as far as the same thing, maybe it added an extra gram of protein, and now all of a sudden it's proteinified, basically. I don't know, again, if that's even a word, but this is basically how the world is right now. Everyone's like loving the idea of protein this, protein that. And in my opinion, like, protein powder is going to give you the most pure protein. There's also different types of protein, right? There's the gold standard whey protein that everyone probably knows. There's I think there's the isolate. It's basically a little bit more of a compound complex. But all these protein things, like, in my opinion, the cleanest way is looking at the back on the nutritional stamp, basically, making sure that there's no sugars. Because one thing that you will find as you look into other protein brands, there's going to be some that taste like chocolate milk and they taste amazing, but you're also putting way too much sugar into your body, where it's like, okay, why is that needed if what you're really going there for is protein? So when I was with the Cardinals and Padres, I think there was a brand, Thorn or Clean. Look up these two, guys. These are like clean supplements, very clean supplements. And I think this is going to give you, it is expensive, but this is what we had with the Cardinals and Padres. All right, we are halfway through a Coffee and Baseball. Guys, I can't stress enough, if you have any baseball-related questions, feel free to ask, especially if this is your first time, you're getting to know me. That's awesome. But yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys as much great baseball education as I possibly can. Okay, let's talk about it. EV, 88 to 90, as a 16-year-old. 16-year-old, is that, what, junior? Or is that sophomore? Usually 14 is freshman, 15 is sophomore, 16 is junior year, probably. If that's right. That's where, guys, like, age doesn't matter as much as graduation year, or basically what grade you're in. So let's say 11th grader with 88 to 90. It's okay. Is that actually competitive? Yes, it's competitive. I think, like, if we're trying to, it depends on, like, what our dreams and goals are, right? Like, if our dreams and goals are to play at the D1 level, like, not really competitive right now. Your son needs to build up that quick twitch muscles and frame. So once he's getting to that like 100-mile-an-hour EV off the tee with a wood bat, that's going to be a lot more competitive in these college coaches' minds, because now you're like given that ability to show that you're able to compete with their current players, and that's actually like a huge area. All right. We are investing in strength training. How long before coaches notice physical changes? So if anybody has gone to the gym before, you know what I'm about to say, right? These things don't happen overnight, right? They will never happen overnight. This is what I like to call, like, the same way as far as investing, compounding interest. Basically the compounding effect of basically you do one thing, you do another 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 thing. And you do that, basically, that's 1 week. And basically if we expand that out and we just keep doing it, that's where we're going to grow as a baseball player. As far as how long will it take for college coaches to notice, like, they're not going to necessarily notice unless you give them a way to notice, right? So if we're emailing these coaches and say like, hey, not my son, but I am 110 pounds, because ideally the player should be the one reaching out to these college coaches. And then 3 months later, hey, I'm 130. Cool. By the way, I think there was a situation where I had a student that was 110 and then he went to 150. 40-pound difference in 3 months. So before you guys say it's impossible, it's when you have the right guidance, you have the right moves in front of you, you have that pathway, you have that structure in what you're doing, so that way mentally you don't have to question yourself on, am I doing the right things? Again, that's why we have a New York Mets strength coach to write the programs for us, to ensure that, like, not for us, not necessarily for me, but really for my students, for your son, if he ever decides to join into my program, the Triple Play. Go check everything out on MendozABaseballAcademy.com if you guys are interested. But yeah, that's where like a lot of families will feel stuck as far as like the overall development. Maybe you're going to like a personal trainer that's at like a local YMCA and they kind of have just general knowledge on fitness. I would prefer, if you're calling that investing, I would talk about what are we really investing into? Are we talking about a sports specific coach that's going to help with rotational movements and baseball specific training? Probably not, right? You're talking about a local YMCA trainer, right? So, and they might have played a different sport back in the day. So these are all things that I really want you guys to consider when, especially you're talking about investing in strength training. It's like, okay, well, are you doing the right things? Do you know if you're doing the right things? And typically families won't know if they're doing necessarily the right things in the gym. And that's where your son will typically just fall into the category of doing bench, deadlift, and squats. And like, yeah, I'm going to the gym. It's like, yeah, you are, but you're also not, right? You're also not, because you're doing everything that really football players are doing and bodybuilders. So is that really strength training? Are we really focusing in any of these movements on rotation? Bench press, is that a rotation? No. Deadlift, is that a rotation? No. Yeah, it's a really good lift as a baseball player, but it's not necessarily like going to give you that rotational strength. Squats, is that a rotational strength? No, right? So baseball is very heavy on that rotational strength. And it is very important that you have that ability to know what baseball specific movements look like, what they feel like, how your core feels after a workout, what that soreness should feel like in your obliques, maybe a muscle that you've never trained before, right? And as you guys will see probably here in the next month or so, as spring training is coming up, you hear it every single year. Oblique strain, oblique strain. Obliques because, guys, obliques are part of the rotation. You hear this happen even at the biggest, highest level at the MLB, in the MLB in spring training, because these guys don't necessarily train the right ways. I've seen videos of how guys like Juan Soto even train, and it's like, it's insane. Also, Juan Soto's batting practice routine when I was with the Padres, and he was with the Padres as well, insane. If anybody has seen videos of his cage routine, insane. Everyone looked at him like he had 17 different heads. Like, in my opinion, it just looked insane. It's crazy that, like, that's what has got him to the player that he is. Now, if I tried to do that, I don't think I would necessarily get the same results from that. Just something to keep in mind. Matt, I'm going to need more out of you. All right? 13 years old. That's all I know about you. And because I got food in front of me, I'm going to munch on it until you give me some more information, because I'm not going to give you a vanilla answer saying, hey, this is what you have to do. You're 13 years old. You need to give me more for me to be able to actually give you a specific answer. And that goes for everyone. If you're going to ask a question, make sure it's a good quality question. What can I do to get better as I'm 13 years old? In my opinion, like, it's so hard for me to answer that question because there's a million things that you could be doing, but also if you're already throwing 100 miles an hour, Matt, I'm not going to tell you to focus on throwing, if that makes sense. I'm still waiting on you, Matt. All right, there we go, a little bit better. I play travel ball, AA, and I'm more of a line drive hitter and baseman, second baseman. I want to know what workouts I could be doing. All right, Matt, again, not really too much. What's your 60-yard dash time? What's your arm velocity? And what's your exit velocity? Also, you're 13 years old. What's your graduation year? Or what's your grade? That's going to help me. Because what you just told me right there, dude, I don't know what AA is because it's definitely not AA like minor league baseball. You being a second baseman tells me you might be undersized. I'm going to head out, man. How to get ready for my baseball game. Yeah, go kill it, man. Go kill it. Have a good one. Seventh grade, arm velocity 58. Is that all you know? EV 60. Do you know your 60 time? If you don't know what your 60 time is, it's not a big deal. 60 is the easiest one to get. So like if you know these two things, you probably hit on a Rapsodo or a TrackMan before, or a Hit Tracks, right? And that's how you know these things. Your 60, dude, all it takes is willpower as far as running 60 yards in a straight line, and that's how you find out what your 60-yard dash is. So as far as your 60 time, especially since you're in 7th grade, like it's just gonna give me a test on like how athletic you are. In 7th grade, my 60 time was probably like an 11 seconds, honestly. So like, don't view it too much. We always want that to be less than 7 seconds as we're approaching senior year of high school. No, okay, now we actually have something, dude, and that's the purpose of these lives. I want to make sure I'm giving you specific information on your current situation. So since you're a second baseman, I'm also kind of curious on your height and weight. But being in 7th grade, dude, exit velocity 60 miles an hour. Like we haven't necessarily gotten to that point of like puberty of like getting bigger and stronger and faster just yet. So like that's not something I'm necessarily focusing on. Your arm velocity I'm not necessarily focusing on either, but it's good to know where you are. So now the thing that I have really for you that's going to help you out the most is like, this is today and you're right there. Now, when we're, let's just say like plus 1 month, plus 2 months, plus 3 months. So ideally, based off of these, you're 5 foot, 105. All right, so look down here real quick, right? So ideally, you're right here. In a month time, I want you to be right here. In 2 months time, I want you to be right here. In 3 months time, I want you to be right here. So as you can tell, like basically you're progressing. And the only way that you're able to progress is if you know these metrics and you track them regularly. So if you are looking to increase your arm velocity, track your arm velocity. Every Friday, it's in your mind, it's like, hey, today's a velo day. I'm gonna do a pull down, I'm gonna get on a mound, and I'm gonna throw a ball, hoping to increase my arm velocity. So that way we're able to track where we're at each and every single month or every single week. And that's gonna definitely help us out with everything that we've got going on. So just keep that in mind, because obviously that is a very important aspect of track. Like what gets measured, guys, gets improved. And what gets improved gets measured. So it works on both ways, right? We would need to make sure that we have that ability to measure what we've got going on. Because if we don't, then we're going to be just, you know, in like, just we're going to be in the shadows. All right. If you have any baseball-related questions, feel free to ask. I think there's some over on YouTube, so I'm going to hit those first. All right, other players in his grad class are committing early. Did we miss the window? Okay, so I'm going to go down 2 routes, 2026 and 2027. So I don't know what grad class your son is in, but let's talk about it. Because if you are a 2026, you're a senior, right? Time's running out, right? We have, 3 months until graduation? 3 months until graduation. And we're talking about getting recruited now. Why? Like, why in the world are we talking about getting recruited now? Like that, in my mind, it's just like, why did we wait so long to do anything? And really what I'm talking about doing anything is getting structure in like recruiting strategy, email, outbound, social media, development, because obviously he's not getting recruited because he's lacking something as far as development. Maybe it's his mindset. These are all factors on why seniors are being overlooked right now, here today, because yes, the window has passed. Now, let's talk about for the juniors out there, the 2027s. We're already past August 1st. So if you're a junior and you haven't received a phone call from a college coach, we're already past that midterm exam. August 1st is the midterm exam in your son's high school baseball journey. And if we're not receiving phone calls from college coaches saying, hey, I can contact you, and they're just choosing not to, it's because they have other players that are on their list, right? So in my opinion, like junior year, if we're not emailing coaches on a structured regimen as far as a routine, just like our hitting routine or our pitching routine, we need to have a routine on the recruiting side, again, to focus on the structure, the outbound, the social media, all that can be done. Now, I will say for like the 2028s, sophomores, August 1st, and this is why it's important to understand time frames and everything like that. August 1st is like 5 months away. We're literally 5 months out for those 2028s to be able to start initiating conversations, or not, sorry, we can initiate conversations with college coaches today as a 2028, even though we are a sophomore. That's probably one of the most common mistakes that I hear is, oh, college recruiting only starts after August 1st of junior year. No, it doesn't. That's when college coaches can communicate with us. That's when, ideally, if we've been reaching out on a structured recruiting strategy, we've been outbound emailing, we're doing social media, presenting ourselves in the right way, we're developing the right way, we have that right mindset, we're doing all that pre-August 1st. Well, guess what? For that midterm exam, which again is August 1st, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to have those phone calls. Right? Phone calls, that's basically going to be a great opportunity for your son to know that he's on the right track throughout his junior and senior year. So that way, like ideally before his senior year, he's landing commitments in his junior year. He's getting those offers in his junior year. He might not necessarily have to make decisions in his junior year, but at least we're not waiting around, doing nothing until our senior year, where this person, the window did somewhat close. Hopefully that answers your question. A little bit long-winded, but I think that's just like really important to understand. Like the ones that do wait will be the ones that say, I wish I started sooner. That's what it's ultimately going to come down to, is if you think that waiting around until your senior year is the best time to start. David, what's up on YouTube? Baseball emoji. I don't know if this is your first time or not, but David27, I feel like I've seen you in there before, but welcome in. David, if you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask as we're wrapping up. We've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure I'm answering everyone's questions that I can get to. But yeah, if you think that waiting around is like the best strategy, in my opinion, that's just completely wrong. You really have to think about the mindset of like the ones that are, again, using this time as like a building block path. Like these are going to be the ones that build the tallest walls. You can't build the tallest wall in the city, let's just say, if you start your senior year. Like you're going to be able to build a wall this big, especially if we don't focus on the physical or the mental side, right? But if we start our 9th grade year or 10th grade, right? Like I think it's important to understand like 9th or 10th grade, we can get these things in motion without a doubt, right? This is going to be the opportunity for us to be able to build a nice tall wall, right? And I think a lot of you parents, especially listening to this, already know this, because if we're ever going to be like investing in like, let's just say like a stock or, you know, a savings account, there's a thing called like compounding interest that basically stacks these things up. And that's what basically, I think, what's it called? It's amortization chart or something like that. I don't know. I'm butchering that. But basically, that's where over time things will basically exponentially start to increase. You've never heard of Warren Buffett or any of the great investors basically say, yeah, start investing when you're 80 years old. No, all the best people have said, hey, start when you're 18 and do like $10 a day or $100 a month and just slowly chip away and build that worth up, just like in this example. But we all know this stuff, but most parents don't invest. Most people aren't necessarily super wealthy. Most players that play baseball don't get the opportunity of playing D1 and beyond. So it's really about doing these things that most players won't do, so that way your son has the ability to do those things that other kids wish they could do. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, guys. If you have any baseball-related questions, feel free to ask. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Instagram. We are live on YouTube. And especially, guys, if you want to hang out, always remember, this is day 28. We're going to be streaming every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're probably going to do more than that because these are awesome. Just keep in mind, excluding Sundays. So tomorrow, we're not going to be doing live. We'll be rejoining you guys over on Monday. Monday at 11 a.m. So should I be consistently be checking in on arm velocity, exit velocity, and do a 60? Yeah. So this is something that I could probably pull it up for you, Matt, because it is pretty important as far as pretty in line with what we're talking about. So let me pull this up for you. This is going to give you a great understanding on really what we do inside my program. And then it's going to give you that clarity on like, okay, how do we go about it, making sure that we're growing into the player that we want to become. So, okay, there we go. So let me move this over so you can see what I'm talking about, because this is important. Let me just quickly change this up, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here in a second. Okay. All right, so can you guys see this? Let's move that over actually. Can you guys see this all right? I'll move it like this so you can see it. I am speaking for my kid. Oh wait, okay, just joined as a sophomore in JV. Is it still a good time to email college coaches? Yes, I will hit on that here in a second. But to answer Matt's question, should I be consistently checking in on my arm velocity, exit velocity, and 60? So this is something that we do inside the program that I think is just really important to understand. The importance of what gets measured gets improved, right? So what we do is like really use the data to make the decisions for my players in the development, right? So every single week, our students will go through a weekly update as far as making sure that they're tracking all the essential metrics. So that way we're able to build reports basically for them for exit velocity gain since joining into the program, arm velocity gain. And basically what we're trying to do with these trends are to make sure that we can see them go ultimately up and to the right. Like, in what world would we ever want them to go down or regress, right? And if we ever see those plateaus, we know that they're plateaus. We're not thinking we're plateauing. There's a big difference, right? There's either thinking that we're plateauing or we're actually plateauing. So I think that's just like an important concept, is like, yes, you should be tracking these things just about on a weekly basis. And if you're not, there are players, I can confidently say this, there are players that are doing that, and especially inside my program. So let's go over Jose's question. I joined as a sophomore on JV. Is it still good to email coaches? I'm speaking for my kid. So yeah, if your son's a sophomore, this is where we have to think about what's coming up, right? So to put it into perspective, this is March, this is April, this is May, June, July, August, right? So August 1st, right there, that's August 1st, right? August 1st is when these college coaches can communicate with your son. So if you're like-minded like me and you like to get ahead of things and you're an action taker, what are we doing here? Because ultimately, the way that I always like to envision this is 9th grade, 10th grade. That's the halfway point. We got 11th grade over here. And we got 12th grade over here. So this is quite literally the midterm, right? Halfway through, that's what midterm really means, right? But if we're thinking about a college class or a high school class, the midterm is basically the exam halfway through the semester. Now, what is that midterm? August 1st. And it basically tells you how good of a job you're doing there. And if your son's a sophomore, right, already, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months to really figure this out and build this compounding effect. And if you just joined in, maybe you didn't hear what I just said, but basically we need to have this compounding effect of like day 1, it looks like this. Ooh. Day 1, it looks like this. 1 block. Next day, looks like this. Next day, it looks like this. And ultimately what that compounding effect will look like is, you know, we're building this really tall wall, as tall as possible, upwards. And we're not able to have that compounding effect, again, unless we actually get this process started emailing college coaches. And that is something that, Matt, I do help out my students with. Sophomore year is like, I never like to say that there's a perfect time to start into my program, but like with what we've got going on, especially these next couple months, so that way we can focus on our development sooner rather than later, because that is an area that will take the most amount of time to really compound that progress. Sophomore year is, like, in my opinion, one of the better times to start up everything. There are parents and players that join into my program as early as 8th grade to send out these emails. So that way, because I hear it all the time, and I think these, like the parents that I speak to also hear it all the time from other parents that are in high school. we're so confused about recruiting. We don't know what to start. We don't know what to do. And these are all coming typically from those juniors and seniors, right? Because they don't know what they've done, or they haven't taken the right actions leading up to that. So there's some parents and players that have that mindset of 8th grade, hey, we're going to figure this out. What we're really going to do, again, like in 8th grade, is we're really just going to get things into motion, right? We're just getting things into motion. We're just starting up that process of building routines, building the clarity in our mind, so that way we can enjoy 9th and 10th grade, knowing we have that structure that individuals have built inside my program, working one-on-one with me. So that way, August 1st in that midterm, we get an A+. What we preach to our kids, and I don't have kids, so maybe take this with a grain of salt, but what you probably preach to your kids are get good grades, do your homework, study, right? Does anybody do that? What we probably teach our kids and what we preach our kids, and by the way, I don't have any kids, but you probably have told your kids before, let's redo that because I'm recording. All right. This is going to be a reel that you'll probably see on your feed. What you've probably preached to your kids before are get good grades, do your homework, and study. And if this is something that you've ever said before, stick around. My name's Evan Mendoza. I played 7 years of professional baseball, and this is why you are being a hypocrite. So you are telling them to do good in school, do your homework, and prepare with that studying. But the thing is, when we're in 9th and 10th grade, and ideally I have juniors, right, and seniors that have not done any prep as far as the recruiting process, they have not developed on a structured format. These are the individuals that you have allowed them to delay that, to be a procrastinator, to not study, to not do their homework, to not get good grades. Because ideally that August 1st date, around that 10th, in between 10th and 11th grade, this is that midterm exam. And what you're basically teaching to your son is you don't have to do homework, you don't have to study, you don't have to get a good grade in this midterm exam, which again is August 1st, and that basically is a way to tell if these college coaches are interested in you or really your son or not. If college coaches are calling your son, you got an A+. If they're not, and you feel lost and you feel hopeless that your son's ever going to get any college communication from any college coaches, and all your emails that you're receiving are come to this camp and come to that camp, you basically failed that midterm exam. So again, if you've ever told your son, hey, get good grades, do your homework and study, just make sure that he's applying that to the recruiting game, his development, his mindset, and that's of course an area I help out with all my students. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up, guys, because it is the top of the hour and that's when I wrap things up. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is, we did a lot today, a lot of different layers. Sometimes I don't like starting too down. All right, we're gonna use pink today. And let's get started. I'm gonna try making this one quick. All right, day 28 of 50 of streaming every single day. Guys, in the college recruiting process, it is important that we need to paint the picture of who we are to these college coaches so they know who they're talking to. Also, for those that have a hard time transitioning from practice into the game, ideally it's a mindset. It's nothing physical. You need to focus on your mind. Now, as far as a good mindset for pregame and during the game, your best at-bat is your next at-bat. If we focus too much on the past, that's where we can get hurt. Ultimately, there's an individual that asked basically, as far as a lefty, what position should I be focusing on? Pitcher, first base, and outfield. That's kind of like the only places that you can play at the higher levels. Also, I never like giving you guys vanilla answers, and that's why I do these lives. I'm not trying to cram this into a 3-second video, and if you have the attention span of a 3-second individual, we're probably not a good fit for each other. We talk about overnight success. Guys, you have to grind it out for a long period of time to get that. Overnight success does not look like that. It takes incredible hard work. We had an individual in 8th grade talking about what bat size he wanted and what drop level. This is also an important aspect that I created a reel about as well. Wanting to make sure that you're hitting the ball on the right part of the barrel, which is really towards the cap, not necessarily getting jammed. We talk about some supplements that took in pro ball. We also talk about being vocal out there as an infielder, even though your son might be shy. We talk about basically protein and certain brands that I liked taking in my professional career. We also talked about being around that 88 to 90 mile an hour exit velocity, and ideally as an 11th grader, this is where we can try getting closer to that 100 mile an hour mark if we're trying to go D1. Now, another area that's really important is like for those that are showing that progress, we want to be able to communicate that with college coaches every single day. Now, another thing that we need to also need to put in mind, if we're ever going to a personal trainer, we need to make sure that it's focusing on rotational strength because baseball requires you to be a rotational athlete. Now we went over a profile of a 13-year-old 7th grader, which was insightful. We talked about basically the recruiting game year by year as far as different grades. We also talked about building up this tall wall, and it's impossible to build up a very tall wall if you start your senior year of high school. We also talked about basically investing and basically the compounding interest that will happen in a chart like that, and it also really results into making sure that you start early, not when you're 80 years old. We also talk about the importance of starting around sophomore year, so that way we're prepared for that midterm exam. Again, building that wall is really, really important, guys. And last but not least, guys, the importance of if we're preaching to our son, get good grades, do your homework, do all the studying so you get good grades. In 9th and 10th grade, we need to make sure that we're preaching that in the recruiting game as well, because again, that August 1st date, we need to treat it like a midterm exam. And if we're going to pass it, it basically says we've done our studying, we've done our homework, we've done the correct course of action. If we fail it and no college coaches are calling, basically it means that we have to have a better structure. All right, guys, well, welcome to Coffee and Baseball. If this was your first time, I'm going to be wrapping this up. We do this every single day, Monday through Saturday, excluding Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Guys, if you want this uploaded, or if you want to watch this as a recorded, uploaded, previously recorded, you know what I'm trying to say. It's over on YouTube, so go check that out, and I'll see you on the next one.
Welcome Evan Mendoza to the program.
Cardinals third baseman Evan Mendoza.
Giving it a look, finds the railing and he tumbles over, but he made the catch. Unbelievable, Evan Mendoza.
Gran jugada en Evan Mendoza, dos joyas defensivas.
Evan Mendoza makes a great
Rounded up the middle. Mendoza throws out the shortstop. Mendoza field spins. Throw.
Mendoza throw to first in time. Wow, what a play by Evan Mendoza.
Short. Mendoza to second for one. Oh my word, you've got to be kidding.
Evan Mendoza.
For Mendoza.
Mendoza lifts one to left.
An inning.
Mendoza, that one's sailing back there, and it's gone.
Now, those are some of the plays and the insights of playing baseball at the highest level, not just posting about it. Now, let's flip the script. Here's what my students and families have to say about working with me.
Just share his stories of the kids asking him, what did you do? And his one answer was one word. Evan.
It's an overall great program to improve your metrics, mental approach, your velocity, and your outreaching strategies. Because there's a ton of players I know that are way better than me that had 0 offers because they don't know how to reach out to coaches.
Pretty much every possible number would have gone up. I was high 70s and now I'm aiming for mid to high 80s and hitting the same thing. I was high 80s off machine and now I'm able to put some balls out in the mid 90s.
JT's motivation to want to do it at home, be proactive in his baseball career, and we are able to do these things for him, and it's self-motivated and he's taken that action. As a parent, you want to be able to say yes to something like that.
It's been making me feel much more confident. Like now going into the season, I feel I have all the ability I need and I can just play and trust that all the work I did will pay off.
Started working out, I was about 120, 115, about 160 now. I trusted it and it worked. If you want to go get it, it's not going to come to you.
My EV was about 75 and my body weight was around 155, around that. Since I joined that, I'm up to almost 180 now and I'm hitting 80s, around mid 80s.
How much more kind of committed he was and how much more confident he became in his own progress, instead of questioning himself about, am I doing the right thing or is this the right thing? So you could kind of see the stress level decrease a little bit, and then that energy could be focused on really all of the program aspects, right? Or his workouts.
Do that. If you could get on and do what you said day